Hi, welcome to my channel. This is going to be a quick video on how I use the Cornell note-taking method and how I use it to revise. So this particular version is a slightly adapted version of the Cornell method because this way just works a lot better for me. I don't take these notes in lectures because my lecturers give us handouts like the slideshow for us to annotate, and for me I find that a lot easier. I write it all up like this when the lecture's over and I go back home and I write up my notes. This is the form that I write them in after the lecture because I write them in a very, very concise way, which is good for revision because by the time I get to revise, I should know the topic fairly well. And when you write things in a very concise, very, very succinct way, it makes you think about what you're writing, and the more I have to think about what I'm writing, the more I'm challenging myself to understand the information. So I write all my key points in this large section here, and in this narrow section I use it to elaborate on the points that I'm making here. So on this side I'm talking about the nuclear force, I write down the kind of key features of it, and then in this narrow column I'm just elaborating on what I'm saying here, and it's just in case that when I do come to revise, if I read this and I need that bit of extra information, then I have it on this side as well. I also write all my diagrams in this column because I find they're easier to put in this column and have the key points here. There's often more points that I need to put here, and the reason I do it this way, I don't just write my notes out in kind of top to bottom one long line. It's just because I find it a lot harder. In my mind, I may as well read the textbook in that sense, and logically, in my head, it does make sense to write all the information, starting at the beginning, finishing at the end. But in practice, unfortunately, that doesn't really work for me. I need the key points here, and if that's all I need to know and I understand it, then that's really good. If I don't, I can look here, and then if I still don't understand here, I can go back to my original notes. So that's how I use this. These bottom sections, however, are for these rectangles here I use for writing questions. So once I've gone through all my topics and all the notes, I'll go back and I write questions on the material that I've got written here. So it tests me that when I come back to revise, it means that I'll actively read through the material so that I can answer the questions that I've asked myself here. And often as I'm writing these things out, I do have questions come to mind, and if I do have one and I think, oh, that's really good, I'll just jot it down in here anyway. And for that I will also often use post-it notes that I'll stick them down here, or cut them to size just to stick in here, and I'll write the questions on there and have the answers underneath. So that means when I come back to revise, I'll have, not only do I have the notes and the key points to help me revise, but I also have questions to then test myself on it. In this square here, I write down keywords or equations or terms that I really need to learn that are really important. So perhaps in the exam where I might get a question where I'll need to reference and we need to use correct terminology all the time, but in case it's something that's very, very vital and I need to remember those words, I'll write them here, or potentially, reference any kind of diagrams in here as well. Just all sort of my key points I sort of summarize in here. And the reason this helps me revise is, as I've said already, it's very, very succinct. So it means that I'm only seeing the absolute necessary points and facts that I need to know, because by the time you come to revise, you should hopefully have quite a good grasp on the topic, and these should be the only prompts that I need, with the questions here to test me as well. And that's why I do leave them till the end generally, because it means it's another stage of going through the material to think of questions that helps cement it in my head. And then when I come back to revise during exam time and I read the questions, they're already there, I've already been through it multiple times, and all of this together just culminates in a way that means that I've already been over the material a couple of times. Even if it's quite quickly, I've been actively looking at it and thinking about it which often short bursts of active study and active reading can often be a lot better than long periods of very passive reading. For a really long time, I struggled when I read textbooks where I'd just be reading it and feel like the information just wasn't really going in, until I started to work like this, where I was using ways that actually work for me. And that can take a bit of time to work out what does and doesn't work for you, but hopefully you might want to give this a go, see if it works. It certainly works for me. If you have any questions, put them down in the comments below, and thank you for watching.